All right. So good evening, everyone. Happy New Year. Hope the holiday season was fun and restful for you. Welcome to San Ramon User Group meeting, and we are so excited and honored to welcome Meg Gray from Salesforce.org to our user group today. The agenda of the meeting today is we'll demo the outcome management of nonprofit cloud, and I'll share some of the Trailhead resources that I gathered in the chat soon. This session will be recorded and posted in the San Ramon SFDC YouTube channel. I'll post the link of that channel as well, and I'll also post some useful links to know which other conferences that are coming up, and also the calendar for webinars and events. So just have a look at that. Also, please follow us in our success chatter group for the San Ramon user group. And we have a YouTube channel, and we have Twitter group and LinkedIn group as well. So do follow us there as well. And just a fun fact, thanks to Sunil for getting Meg introduced to this group after meeting her at Dreamforce 23. So this is a picture they took. And then thanks everyone for joining today, and we appreciate your participation and support. This is me. Few things about me. I'm just going to share the slide deck, and you can read about me there. And then this is Krish. He joined me as a co-leader.
Hello. Hi guys, my name is Krish, co-leader, and you heard the introduction before, but a Salesforce developer for NPR and 6-time certified, and also was a Dreamforce speaker at Dreamforce 23. So that was fun.
Awesome. And he keeps doing fun stuff, and you can follow us through those QR codes. And some ground rules. This session is being recorded. Please mute your mics unless to ask a question. Post your questions in the chat, ask questions, participate in the network, and if possible, post some screenshots of what you've learned from the session today in Twitter using at San Ramon SFDC handle. Useful tips and resources, Data Cloud Trail Mix. I'll be sharing the slide deck, so please go ahead. It's really hot and really, promoted a lot by Salesforce. So try doing that trail mix. The Spring 24 release notes are out, so we'll be doing that session soon after. And also, there were nonprofit job opportunities posted in What's List job page, which is on this link, in case anybody is interested. This is all about the release notes, which we'll be doing, and poll time. Let's have some interaction with everyone. I launched the poll. Please go ahead and participate. We get to know something about everyone through the polls. We haven't, yes. All right, we have 10 out of 17 who have participated so far, and now 16, suddenly shorter. Only one person hasn't. Maybe that's me, so I'll end the poll. Share results. All right. So these are the results. How many people have worked with nonprofit cloud? 69%. How many are affiliated with a nonprofit? 67%. How many have donated to a nonprofit? All of us have donated. Amazing. And New Year resolutions. I'm trying to gather that. Learn something new every day. Focus and finish. Implement the NPC to find purpose and drive impact. Oh, awesome. Learn NPC. Amazing. All right. So that was a brief introduction about our group. And so we started in 2020 and this is 2024. So we are rolling along. And this is an exciting time. I hand it over to Director, Product Management, Salesforce.org, Meg Gray, to please present. I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Shiva. It's very exciting to be here. Let me pull up my screen.
Oh, let me make you. All right.
Can you see it?
Yes.
All right. So I've already had a little bit of an intro of what we're going to talk about today. Outcome management.
I think we are not seeing, right? Let me just make you the co-host and then share just for security purpose.
Oh, yeah. It looked like it was loading, but not really.
Just saw the screen you vanished in after that, Meg.
Yeah, and then I got a pop-up that said sharing was disabled. So I think it's a setting.
Yeah, it's just that little security measure.
Let's try again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it.
No? Cool.
Yes, yeah.
So I wanted to start by introducing myself. So we were all kind of doing that before, but so my name's Meg Gray. I've been at salesforce.org for 4.5 years now, which blows my mind a little bit. And before that, I was in the nonprofit space. So most recently, I worked at Kiva, which is an online microfinance platform, but I also worked in community development, early literacy, so kind of a variety of different nonprofits, kind of always on the program's impact, like operations side. And that's been my focus here at Salesforce as well. So really thinking about how to make program management and like the measurement of your impact more streamlined and easier. I live in San Francisco. I have 2 very high energy children who I'm hoping will not make an appearance tonight, but I don't make guarantees. And I volunteer. I feel passionately about like food system issues, and 2 of the volunteer things that I do these days are Cake for Kids, which is baking birthday cakes for kids in homeless shelters and foster care settings so that every kid gets a birthday cake every year. And then I do a lot of work at the SF Marin Food Bank as well. So just like a little bit about me, so you know where I'm coming from going into this. And I thought I wanted to also just say thank you. When I signed up for this, I was like, oh, that's the end of the day. Will I be tired? But I realized kind of as soon as I get on these calls, it's actually so energizing to like be in one of these groups, talking to folks in the community who are like on the front lines of using the products that we're working on every day. So thank you for all you do to kind of create this engaged community and engage with us and give us the feedback that we need to kind of serve the nonprofit community better. So I just really appreciate that. And then your favorite slide, right? I think most of what's in my deck is existing, but I'm bound to say something that doesn't quite exist yet. So base your purchasing decisions on what is there today. So I'm going to do like the really high level overview of Nonprofit Cloud. It sounds like we could spend a long time there based on just the intros and where folks said they were at. But I want to dive deep into outcome management. So I'll do a little bit of background on like why we built outcome management, how we see it fitting into like what we see nonprofits doing today on this front. And then I'll do a demo and kind of open it up for questions from there. Does that sound good?
I maybe you're going to cover this, but I just think it might be useful to state that the nonprofit offering has been referred to as Nonprofit Cloud in the past, but now we have this Nonprofit Cloud product, which is different from what we've had in the past.
Yes. There certainly is confusion there.
Salesforce.
Yeah, an overuse of the term cloud for sure. I think, we're more committed this time that kind of nonprofit cloud is the new offering. That's certainly how I'll use it in this presentation, just so we're on the same page. And when I'm talking about kind of our older products in the managed packages, I'll try and kind of preface it with something like that, just to make sure we're seeing eye to eye. But that's a great call out, Dodie. Thank you. Any other? Okay. So what is Nonprofit Cloud? The real vision behind it is that you can kind of fund, deliver, and measure your impact all in one platform, right? So we kind of started this journey 18 months ago now, probably, maybe a little less than that, to kind of move from our older products that are built in managed packages over to Salesforce Core with a new product line, which we are calling Nonprofit Cloud. And we've been, really excited that over the past year or so that we were really developing, we were able to kind of get what we think is a really strong foundational product out the door that has not only a ton of functionality that we get from being just on the platform, but also kind of all of these purpose-built applications, right? So we have program and case management. That's what went live first, almost a year ago now. And then grant making. And then in the fall, fundraising and outcomes kind of joined that to kind of complete that initial suite of offering in Nonprofit Cloud. And kind of unlike in the past, they're all kind of bundled together into one product, right? So I'll show a slide a little later of the SKU, but I think that's kind of important to realize is like you get Nonprofit Cloud and these all come with it. Grant making, I guess, being the exception, that's kind of an add-on, but if you get grant making, the rest of it comes with it as well. So why did we make that move is a question I often get. And I think the elements that I'm most excited about moving from core, so kind of instead of being in kind of packages that sit on top of the Salesforce platform, we're now like in core, like in the platform itself. And what we're really seeing and what I'm excited about is how we're able to just leverage all of the innovation coming from Salesforce much, much more quickly and more seamlessly, and also kind of share with other industries that are also building. So, historically, we were Nonprofit Cloud and like Education Cloud, for example, like they might build something really neat for case management, but it was actually pretty hard for us to take that and use it in our nonprofit packages. Now that's really easy, so that it's a lot easier to collaborate with other sectors who have really similar use cases to us, like public sector or health cloud, in some cases, education cloud. So we can kind of build once and take advantage of everything these other teams are building. So we get to move much faster and provide, I think, a lot more value over time. Just kind of by faster innovation and like the collaboration across industries. So I'm really excited we made this shift. I think just thinking about the past year in the technology sector as well, and things like Gen AI, like taking off, like actually being in the platform puts us in a position to help nonprofits like use those really cutting edge tools much faster than we would have been in the past. So I think this new foundation in core is, I think, really setting everyone up in a strong place for future innovation, which is, I think, why I'm most excited about it. The other piece that I think is really different from past is we also get kind of this toolkit of common components, what we call them. Sometimes they're referred to as like the toolkit. So things like the ARC relationship visualizer, dynamic assessments, DPE, which is a data processing engine, tools to define business rules. They're kind of all of these components that have been built in core that just can come with our products now, which make what you all can do in terms of configuration and automation like a lot more powerful, a lot more quickly, with, I think, less need for custom code. So it's a really powerful kind of suite of tools that now come with our purpose-built applications. And that's one of the other huge benefits, I think, of being on core. So what is actually in Nonprofit Cloud? This is, again, the high-level view, and then we will dig deep on the outcomes piece. So fundraising, NPSP was our largest managed package product, a ton of people using it. It has been fundraising has been reimagined in core, right? So we have kind of three main apps. You have philanthropy and partnerships. This is really about cultivating relationships so you can make those big asks and track who donors are, who key people are, and manage your portfolio of major donors effectively. Donor engagement, this is more about kind of mass market outreach. So thinking about how do you reach out via Marketing Cloud, how do you establish source codes for tracking who came in through what avenue, how do you summarize which campaigns are most effective, and segment folks. Of all of the stuff on the page here, segmentation is the only one that is an add-on from our main SKU. And then fundraising operations, this is all around, gift entry, recurring donations, pledges, providing actually really strong support to donors, kind of customer support to donors, I think is a new element. So there's a lot there, and it is that ability to reuse from what other teams have built that have allowed us to kind of move to core so quickly with such a comprehensive list of features. So that's fundraising. Then we have program management. So for those of you who are familiar with the program management module, the managed package, you'll see a lot of the same features here, right? You have the ability to set up programs and benefits. Benefits are the new term for services in PMM. So kind of what are the activities that you're doing within your programs to deliver on your mission? You can set up recurring schedules like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class with all of the sessions in a very streamlined and automated way. You track who's in your programs, what benefits they're receiving, or which ones they should receive, kind of attendance and milestones. So all that's in program management. And then case management is really for those cases where you're getting more one-on-one support that you want to track in more depth. So here you're going to have inbound and outbound referrals, there's intake, care plans and templates, dynamic assessments, so a really robust assessment tool for collecting information about your participants, notes, and a really great participant profile as well. So pretty comprehensive. And that is HIPAA compliant. Grant making, so this is all about managing kind of the distribution of funds out to other entities. So you can publish opportunities for funding, award applications, review and approve applications. There's a lot around tracking of budgets and your actuals, like how far are you off your actuals, tracking those disbursements and amendments, which come in a lot related to your grantees. And then it's all kind of put together with a portal template for Experience Cloud for grant seekers. And then last but not least, outcome management, which I'm not going to spend a lot of time on, but we're going to go deep here, just in terms of tracking your outcomes and impact strategies, connecting to program management and all of the indicator management involved, as well as assessments again here. So that's the super high level view. We are selling this in kind of two SKUs, like two offerings. Nonprofit Cloud is the primary one here. And this is the one that now kind of new nonprofits can get their 10 free licenses here. So it's all of those things I showed. It also includes accounting subledger growth, and then that toolkit, which there's too many things in that toolkit to fit on this slide now, but it's a really powerful set of tools for really making your org more custom and visual. That's the main offering. And then grant making, it is all of the same things plus the grant making and budget components, and Customer Community Plus has some licenses there to get you started with that grant seeker template. That was a lot. Are there any questions in the chat yet? I don't see any yet.
there was
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
You had a slide earlier on. I can come off my non-camera-ness. You had a slide earlier on kind of describing the idea that NPC is now built on core versus NPSP, which was on top of, kind of layered on top of core.
Yeah.
I'm kind of old school, so I've been around a while. And in my mind, in my sort of definition of core versus not core, like NPC is my understanding of that is that it's built on what some of us old schoolers might think of as formerly known as Velocity, aka Industries, and that's different from core. Core platform. So my brain's having a hard time kind of wrapping itself around the distinction now.
Yeah, so we are built on core, not Velocity. Velocity is a company that was acquired by Salesforce, I think in 2020-ish. And they have a suite of awesome tools, including like Omni Studio, which is one of the tools in that toolkit that allows for an amazing amount of customization by someone who's not a developer. Initially, Omni Studio, well, there is a role that managed packages also play with Velocity and Omni Studio. Those managed packages have been being migrated into core. So now Omni itself is a much more core-based experience. So there are elements of Omni in Nonprofit Cloud. There aren't any in outcome management. So it's like one of the tools available to us, but it is now functioning. So we are still building on the core platform when we are using Omni.
And when you say core platform, you mean the Omni platform?
No, like Salesforce core, like creating standard objects on Salesforce. And Omni's like a tool that we can use in core for enhancing the UI, but we're still building in core when we're doing that now because they've transitioned into core.
So yeah, my brain's gonna have a hard time with this because so when we talk about things like Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, CBQ, those kinds of things, and we talk about those being on the core platform, are those in the same place as NPC?
Yes. Yeah, like we're right next to Sales and Service Cloud, like all of those objects, like we're borrowing objects from them. Yeah.
Because when we transitioned from NPSP and a brand new org, we actually had to get a new org to get to NPC, to get NPC.
That has been the recommendation to get a new org, and a lot of that's around like person accounts. And
even though we had nothing set up, we hadn't done anything. That's why it was confusing.
Yeah, that I can't speak to like the exact situation. Okay. I think in general, that's the guidance we've been giving sort of sales and such to like do it in a new org for kind of the cleanest experience. So they probably kind of took that guidance regardless of the, without the particulars of the situation.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
my brain's still not gonna get around this, so I'll have to do some more research. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Okay. I will put links to these couple things to add to your list, Sheba, but there's a great document that kind of outlines a lot of the documentation and trails for the new Nonprofit Cloud that I think might help folks. And then there's a user group here too. So I'll put that in the chat at the end.
I had a quick question.
Yeah.
Like you had a slide that showed donor engagement, and under that was segmentation was included as an add-on. Is that similar to levels in NPSP?
Has some similarities. It's not where I'm most knowledgeable, but I think it's much more robust, kind of linked into like the marketing cloud capabilities around segmentation, like creating different groups of folks for outbound communication.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question too.
Sure.
Are there any plans?
You cut out. Can other folks hear, Peter?
Are there any plans for volunteer management?
Yeah, that's one we would love to do, but it's not kind of on the roadmap right now for the next year, I would say. And it's just kind of resourcing and prioritization. I think with all of the new things we launched, we want to make sure those are strong and doing well before we kind of enter another space.
Okay,
But
so as
we know
a
it's an area that a lot of folks want. Like we hear that feedback a lot. I would have been surprised if I didn't get that question tonight. So we're very aware of like how needed it is. It's a matter of just the resourcing we have and not kind of stretching ourselves too thin to do a good job with it.
Okay, and so given that some people are going to be using only the nonprofit cloud, what do we do for volunteers? Do we use like interest tags, or is there some kind of, I don't know, recommended workaround until it's baked into the product?
We haven't kind of published guidance there. We were just doing some planning and talking about that being something we probably should focus on in the next year. But we don't have kind of a new guidance there yet.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your transparency.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Should we talk outcomes now? So it sounds like we have a few folks on the call who are like pretty familiar with outcome management as a concept, but I'm gonna do a little bit of context to just kind of set the stage for why we made the decision to invest here. But first, just want to level set on like the terminology of like when I say the term outcome, like what do I mean? Because I think it is a space where people can think about this differently. So I want to make sure we're on the same page. So we see an outcome as the change expected for a participant or stakeholder as a result of your organization's activities, kind of defined at the strategic level. So defined, like, what is your strategy for creating this change? Like, what are those outcomes you're trying to drive? So a few examples, you might be trying to increase academic engagement, decrease carbon emissions, increase self-confidence. These are the things that you're trying to achieve for the folks in or around your programs. And then there's the term impact, right? So the way we're looking at it, kind of outcomes lead to impact. Outcomes are that change that you're seeing in your participants and stakeholders. Impact is kind of that longer term, more meaningful change that's a result of consistently achieving those outcomes, right? And it's often much harder to measure, which is honestly one reason we started with outcome management. Because when you think about impact, there's often a lot of other external forces as well that are even harder to measure, and it's often much more long-term as well. So this is how we were thinking about the term outcome kind of as we got into this space. But the two are, often used interchangeably. So I wanted to tease out a little bit of what we meant there to start. But why did we go into this space? In talking to customers, spending time one-on-one in groups, like we were hearing more and more kind of this pressure to report on the impact that you're having. Impact always being very loosely defined or very specifically defined by a funder, right? And alongside that, just hearing from folks around, their desire to do the most that they can with their limited resources, right? So wanting to make sure that the money their donors are putting into their organization is being used really effectively to create as much change as possible. So we just have seen this trend over the past years kind of towards an increased desire to be able to have data around your outcomes and impact. But it's hard, right? I think it can be really hard. A lot of organizations don't have a lot of expertise here. And so they kind of know they want to do it. They've been doing kind of the same measuring of outputs. So kind of like how many people were served, kind of just like basic counts for a long time. And, for a while that's been enough, and more the folks that we've been talking to don't feel like it's enough and kind of want to go further, but don't really know where to go. And so then what we saw is like a lot of folks taking that first step into kind of outcome management by defining a strategy, kind of often like a logic model or theory of change, but then that being kind of as far as they could get, because those are really hard to operationalize. I think, Leslie painted that picture a little bit of what she had to do to get all the parts moving to really effectively kind of make that strategy actionable. And we just saw a lot of folks getting stuck in this same spot. And so that was really some of our thinking of like, how do we kind of move these strategies that like live in a PDF and sound great, like into a more like actionable space, where folks can, you know, really know their progress and monitor their progress. And so it's a lot of kind of hearing things like this, and maybe you've said some of these things or heard people in your organization, you know, like, we want to measure our impact. We want to evaluate the effectiveness of our programs. You know, we have a logic model, but we need to implement it or measure it. We want to improve our MEL practices, our MERL practices. There's a lot of acronyms, right? So just, I think over the past few years, we've seen this momentum building of this trend of like folks asking these questions more and more as they've been trying to use our tools. And we really wanted to provide a point of view on how to do that. And so I should have done a poll for this, but I'm curious, like, how many folks are familiar with like a theory of change or logic model structure? Maybe raise your hands if you are. Can you raise your hands in Zoom? Yeah. Who all is familiar with like a logic model? Few folks, yeah. So this is a really common way to kind of lay out what you're trying to do in order to achieve your mission, right? It's kind of a chain of, you know, if you have these inputs or these resources, you know, this is like your budget and staff time. If you have these resources, then you can complete these activities. So these are really your programs, the benefits you offer. Then you can achieve your outputs, right? So this is where a lot of organizations kind of have been hanging out, I would say. Like, they're counting the number of participants or the number of sessions they complete. So they have kind of that first level of data, that those basic counts, and those are outputs in these types of structures. But then if you keep going, you know, if you achieve the outputs you want to achieve, then your participants should experience change. So this is around kind of defining for your organization, what is that theory for which outputs will lead to the outcomes that you want? And then ultimately, if you deliver those outcomes over time, it should lead to that longer term impact you're hoping to have. You know, and I think often when the planning stage is happening, it kind of starts here with the impact and works back this way to like, what are the resources you need to get there? But then implementation kind of is focused the other direction, is what we saw. Obviously, like, you start by getting your resources and moving that way. And then just thinking about Nonprofit Cloud, kind of our new suite of tools, you know, on the input side, this is really where fundraising lives, right? Getting the resources to deliver the mission. And then budget management, which is just in the grant making product, would also be here. And then program and case management are really aimed at your activities, kind of what are the things that you're delivering to clients? How are you tracking them? And then getting you kind of tracking that information you need for your outputs, right? Because this counts how many people are enrolled, how many sessions, you know, what's the status of all of your care plans, like those types of things. So we were thinking about outcome management as this next step, both kind of codifying what your outputs are and creating more structure around saying these are the ones we want to track, and then defining your outcomes and your strategy there. Yeah, you know, in the future, we imagine it kind of going all the way to impact, and there's certainly some ways you probably could use it that way now, but I did want to call out that this was our focus to kind of stop at this point. So we did a lot of talking to customers to kind of try and distill like where we felt like folks were at. So really what we were trying to target in this new product. Hopefully this background is helpful. So from there, what did we actually build? So in the new nonprofit cloud, we think of it more as a suite, really. So a connected program suite that kind of can take you through the whole life cycle of program planning, evaluation, reporting, right? So program planning and strategy planning, that's going to be program management and outcome management together. And then program delivery is really the program management tools. Program evaluation, that's where outcome management comes in. And then reporting, right, is all your data together. And it kind of is also a looping cycle, right? Because it's that data and reporting that should feed back into your next planning. So this is the life cycle of kind of working through a program that we were trying to support here. So I'm seeing questions. I'll stop in a minute for questions. So outcome management, this has been live since October. And really, yeah, as I've said, like our goal here was to make it easier to kind of measure your programs and make your impact strategy actionable, right? So you can have your outcomes and programs in one place to really help understand the effectiveness of those programs. You can define what your impact strategy is and start to make it actionable, set time-bound targets, record results to know if you're on track. And then having that all in one place will make it easier to report and share your impact. So I can pause for questions. I think showing the demo will kind of bring it to life what I mean by a lot of this. But are there any questions before I jump into that?
A lot of folks are asking if you would share the slide deck at the end of the presentation.
I will. I need to double check that I borrowed slides from a couple people. I have to delete speaker notes if they're old, but I will. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so let's switch to a demo. Can you all see my screen with the org in it now?
Yes.
Okay. So here we're on the outcome management homepage, and I think I'll start by just creating a new outcome. Right, so your outcome could be something like increase job stability. Right, active, if it has a source, we often hear from folks that the source is, a funder or the UN SDGs. Like there's a lot of folks who might define some of these outcomes for you, trying to increase it, short, medium, and long terms, short term, and save. And so then from that outcome, there's a few different paths you can take. First, if you remember kind of like the activity portion of the logic model, like we have the outcome activity record so that you can say like this program drives towards this particular outcome. So we'll say crisis and trauma support is part of like helping folks keep their jobs. And you can link this, to a specific activity instead if you would rather. So now if we're back on that outcome, you can see like one of the things that we do as an activity to drive this outcome, like is our job stability program or our crisis support program. Kind of next, and I think this is the harder part because it's not usually in that logic model, is saying like, how will we actually measure this outcome? I think that's one of the things that came up again and again talking to folks is, it's great to say you want to increase job stability or increase self-confidence, but until you figure out how you actually measure it, it's really hard to do much. I think, Leslie was talking about kind of creating an assessment to figure that out. It's exactly that problem. So figuring out like, how are we going to measure increased job stability? So we have two objects at play here. So indicator definition is kind of your library of things that you're measuring as an organization. And we set this up so you can have some consistency across different outcomes or different programs. So we're going to select the, percent of participants with a stable job. We'll just give it a name. and this is an outcome indicator. So indicators can be used to measure outcomes or programs, like, and you'd be measuring a program if it was more of an output indicator, right? But in this case, we're really measuring this outcome. So it's an outcome indicator, and we've populated the outcome there. It's active. And now you have your indicator assignment, kind of joining that indicator definition to your outcome. So if I go back now to my outcome, I have kind of, this is one of the programs that's driving my outcome, and then this is how I'm going to measure that outcome. And then the last bit is you can actually put this outcome into a broader strategy. So I think I have, let's see, do family well-being as a strategy. You know, part of the well-being of the family is employment. And so the impact strategy object, you know, this is the place where you can kind of connect in all of the outcomes in your logic model, so you can get that more holistic view of the strategy overall. If you want, you also, you know, if it isn't a logic model, but it's a set of external requirements, you could group things that way, or something based on a strategic plan. So really the idea here is to allow you to group outcomes in whatever ways are most meaningful to you all. And it can be, one outcome can be in multiple strategies, right? And my favorite thing though about this object is if we go to the impact strategy, the strategy tab, this is the ARC component. So it's a way of kind of visualizing these relationships between records. So here you can see your strategy, and you can see all of the outcomes that are part of this strategy. And then if you click on it, it's going to let you keep drilling down into, okay, here's that outcome, and then here's the indicator to measure it, and here's the program that we said supported it. So you can really get a holistic view of what is your strategy, and what are the different pieces kind of rolling into it. And ARC is also a really good example of one of those tools that come in Nonprofit Cloud today that is pretty easy to configure, and, you know, allows for a, you know, visualization of a lot of different relationships in a way that I think users have said they found really helpful. You know, this screen in particular, we heard from folks that they thought it would be really powerful for like educating new staff on what the overall strategy is, as well as like tracking some requirements for grant makers. So there's a lot of kind of applications, I think, to a easy to interpret like visual of your strategy. But let's go to our next spot. So this is kind of laying out your strategy, right? Like you had your logic model, like now you kind of have a representation of your logic model here in terms of the outcomes you're trying to track and how you're going to measure those. How do we make that actionable, I think, is the next piece. So if we go into indicator assignment, we're actually going to create an indicator performance period. And this is where we bring in the element of like time and accountability. So let's see what time period. So I didn't set up a time period. So time period, very basic object. You know, we could call this FY 2024. You know, it could start in January and end in December. But you can create as many time periods as you want. You know, you could have a monthly one, quarterly one. But this would be FY 24, like job stability. Today. And this is where you also get to put kind of what is your target, right? And what is your baseline? So where did you start from and where are you trying to go this year for that kind of percent in a stable job indicator? So let's say, you know, at the beginning of the year, like 50% of folks in your program are in a stable job, and your goal is by the end of the year, like for 80% to be there. You can pick your status there too. And you can save that. Let's imagine time passes you've done assessments or your case managers have met with your clients and been recording those interactions. Now would be time to record an indicator result. So this is where, yeah, you would kind of store those aggregate values. So we're only partway through our FY24 timeframe, right? So this would be an interim result that we're recording for today. But let's say, now we're at 62%, right? So you could measure that and record that. And so you could keep recording interim results to kind of track your progress through the year. So those are the primary elements of the data model. And then I'll just take you back then to the home page, which I think is trying to tie it all together a bit. So here you're going to have your table of those open indicator performance periods, right? So you can see, the time period, what's the target, what's the last result value. So when I don't have it open anymore. When I recorded that result, it will also populate on the indicator performance period, kind of the most recent result. So you have that result and target and baseline all in one spot. And your progress, so this is your quick way to see what is on track, what might need attention, and also is going to help you navigate into, whatever impact strategies or outcomes are most relevant to you. You can see those recently created results. And then here we have the manage assessments component. I feel like kind of Leslie set me up a little bit with some of the context she gave, but assessments I think are a really powerful form of collecting data in this space, asking those questions of participants in a program. So this is another one of those tools that was built actually by the public sector team that we're able to really easily leverage in Nonprofit Cloud. So this kind of sends you off to go set those up. I think for the homepage, we imagine this user is someone who is more deciding what should be in those assessments rather than implementing them, right? So they'd be setting up the questions and groups of questions from here. And that kind of is outcome management in a nutshell. It's a lot, I know. Any questions jump to mind? Thought I could briefly show the data model too to help kind of break it down. So here's the data model. We started with creating an outcome, right? And then those paths from outcome are, linking your activities through outcome activity. So those are the connections to program and benefit. Linking to an indicator definition. Remember, indicator definitions are kind of that library of the things you want to measure. And by linking it, you're saying this indicator definition is measuring this outcome, or this indicator definition is measuring this program. And then making those indicators kind of actionable and time bound by setting targets, linking those to time periods, and then ultimately kind of recording your results. And then up here we have the impact strategy, kind of the junction object that you don't interact with much. And then the strategy where that visualization lives to kind of see your whole strategy. So that I think is the end. Oh, this is just then that same slide again, hopefully making a little more sense after seeing it all. Kind of seeing all the features that we have there, the MVP to get folks started. Any questions coming up for folks?
Thank you, Meg. I had a question real quick. This is really helpful. Thank you for the presentation. I was wondering, I was seeing where you recorded the last result value manually.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like that's probably, it's not individual, it's aggregated. So like if there was 20 across 20 participants, then you kind of come up with that value and you input it. Is it possible for that to be stored somewhere and just kind of auto-populate that carry
Yes.
like a custom object or something?
There's a number of ways to do it. So the 248 release, the spring release, the one that comes out in February, we will be shipping kind of a point of view on how to use Flow to auto calculate those results. So I think there's a huge opportunity, right, with all of the data that you have stored in CRM already about your participants, those assessments, that you've stored, to kind of point to them and automatically populate the result value. So yeah, that is definitely feedback we've heard, right? Like make it less manual. And I think you'll see in our next release, like our first version of how to start doing that. And we picked Flow as, how we wanted to, for kind of our first use case here, because we think that'll make it easier for folks to customize. Like it will be hard for us to ever ship like all of the exact calculations folks want. But I think what you'll see in the 248 release is a really strong like pattern that folks can follow to use Flow to really reduce the amount of like manual data manipulation that's needed if the data is already, if the like raw granular data is already stored in Salesforce.
Perfect. Thank you. That's exciting. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited about the next release.
Lakshmi, would you like to unmute yourself to ask your question?
Yeah, hi. So the Power of Us program basically gives 10 free licenses to start with in the NPSP pack, correct? So in the same fashion, does outcome management also come with any such licenses to start with, or is it not like something to be compared in the same way?
Yeah, so the Power of Us program, you now can get 10 free licenses of the new nonprofit cloud, and outcome management comes as part of that. There's no additional cost for outcome management, and it's all free in those first 10 licenses. And you can, if you
okay.
go to the trial page, you can like just sign up for a 30-day trial of nonprofit cloud, and outcomes is in it. So you can. it's pretty
Actually,
free.
Meg, just in case, so we are already having a production org with the NPSP, and today, as we are talking, I looked up the outcome management app and I don't see it. So does that mean I have to talk to the account manager to get access to it, or?
Yeah, so if you are using NPSP, that is one of our kind of older products built in a managed package, which is different than the new nonprofit cloud that I was doing the overview of. So outcome management is only available kind of in the new nonprofit cloud, like it was built in core. So if you wanted to see it and play around with it, you could just sign up for a 30-day trial of the new nonprofit cloud just to see it and think about if that could be a fit in the long run for your organization. But it wouldn't go in the same org as your NPSP setup out of the box.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Meg. Yeah.
Maybe this would be a good time to go back to a question Stephen asked earlier, which is about how many NPSP orgs are out there and what does Salesforce see as the timeline for people making the switch to NPC?
Sure, I didn't see that question before. Sorry about that. There are a lot of NPSP orgs out there, just the latest, it's like we have 40,000 nonprofit customers, a lot of which are using NPSP. So talking about kind of our migration strategy is another focus this year. Defining your migration strategy isn't really something you can do until the new product is fully baked, right? You don't want to say migrate this way when you don't know your new data model really well yet. So we're feeling good that we have that and can start to like have more resources to support folks and engage with partners who want to help folks migrate. That said, like I don't see us like mandating a timeline at any point. I think resources will become more and more available to make it easier, but it's going to be, a choice for every nonprofit. There's been no discussion of like everyone's going to be forced to move by X date. I think, we don't expect NPSP to go anywhere anytime soon. There are no plans to end of life it, nothing like that. So it is going to be like a decision that organizations make for themselves, kind of weighing kind of benefits they see to being on the new version versus, all the customizations and such that you have in the old to make it work really well for you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Megan. I was curious too. Thanks, Dodie, for bringing that back up. I was curious too on the decision on having NPC as a personal account based. I mean, is that something that you have to do if you're going to use nonprofit cloud and be able to use all these features? And why has Salesforce kind of gone in that direction? I'm just curious to the philosophy behind that. Because I'm about to set up a new org, and it's a big fundamental question for them is whether to go this direction or whether to go on the old NPSP model.
Yeah, so we are like strongly recommending it if you're using the new nonprofit cloud. I don't think we're like technically allowed to actually like require it, but like some features and functionality won't work well if you are not using person accounts. And the reason we did it is kind of similar to some of the reasons of like why we wanted to move to core. It's really thinking about the other industries where we know that there's a lot of overlap, like especially like health cloud, public sector, and like how those industries also model individuals. Health cloud, everything is centered around person accounts. They've built a lot of components I'm super excited to put into outcome management. If we weren't using person accounts, like I wouldn't be able to do that. So I think it's going to help us like move more quickly. And also, when we were making that decision, a lot of us were like, person accounts, like, no, don't we hate person accounts? And I think, that had been what folks had said for a long time. And when we really evaluated it, a lot of the problem areas and gaps that had historically been there just weren't there anymore, So I think they've improved a lot from when a while back some folks like had stronger opinions against them. So we've been using them. I think they've been working well. And that's like a little bit about the rationale. It's like kind of that interoperability with other tools that are coming out of industries that we think will be really powerful for our customers.
Yeah, thank you. I can see, particularly once you get into case management and program management, personal accounts making sense. I mean, a lot of nonprofits I'm working with are only using it for the fundraising piece, and NPSP model works really well for that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of part of the challenge there. But anyway, appreciate the feedback.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're not using person accounts in the new nonprofit cloud, like some features won't work. I think there's some documentation around exactly what. That's been less. I don't know all of the specifics because outcome management has been not at the individual person level yet, but it'd be worth looking at that.
What if we're not measuring outcomes at the individual person level?
Sorry, can you say that whole question again?
We're not really measuring outcomes at the person level. The nonprofit is not really focused on people, so it becomes confusing because the language is not person oriented. So we're the programs are targeted at treatment programs. So we are giving care plans to programs. And so if we were measuring outcomes, we would be checking to see how effective the programs were for the treatment programs that we were giving them to. And so we're like people aren't the target of this. Is very confusing because of all the terminology with this company customer. But so we're not using person accounts because we're not dealing with people.
Yeah,
really, it's very weird.
Yeah, they're person accounts and they're business accounts, right? So if business accounts felt like a better fit, like I think that works as well. I think the main thing is it's not contact centric. Like if you are modeling an individual, like your contact at that program, you would use person account. kind of where historically you may have used contact.
Yeah, I mean, we're using a more traditional model in this case because the oh God, can't even, it's hard to explain. The language is too crossovery.
Yeah.
Okay, so can we still use outcome management to measure the outcomes for the programs, for the accounts, for the business accounts, I guess, that we're targeting the programs? Oh God, I don't even know how to explain it. Can we still use outcome management even though it's accounts?
Yeah, so
not people.
So program management, like you could enroll a business account in a program rather than a person account in a program and then be tracking. Yeah.
Perfect. That's good. Thank you.
Let's back to, sorry, Leslie, you go ahead.
Okay, I just had a quick question about AI. Thank you. I was just wondering is that a fully baked feature in Nonprofit Cloud or in the outcomes management? And is there any really interesting ways that nonprofits have used it for any data insights?
It's not in Nonprofit Cloud yet. We are kicking off our first pilot next month of a couple first features there. We have those first two features are kind of program summaries. So kind of looking at a program and creating a narrative summary of like what that program is about and what's going on with it. And then donor summaries. So donor gift proposals. So you're preparing for a new pitch to a major donor, like summarize what their interests are and what your last interactions have been. So those are kind of the first two use cases that we're looking at. Those are entering pilot. So, it's kind of a small subset. We're going to be doing a lot of testing on. Yeah, I think that was the question. Did I miss anything?
That answers it. Thank you.
Cool. Any other questions? I'm going to put the links in the chat to the two resources I mentioned in my deck. It's kind of a trailblazer community group.
Yeah, not a question, more a comment. It's more for people to start thinking now for the outcomes before they start building the programs. And it's basically like I see it like that's why I said one of the first session should be outcomes. Is you should know where you want to go or what the impact has to be. Or what's my impact going to be? Then I say break down the impact into outcomes and you break it down into the programs. You can work backwards, right? Kind of thing. So I guess that's how you need to see. And I believe it's like all integrated, which people don't realize that. People say, okay, hey, let me just put the data in. Like people start from the front end. Hey, let's put the data in. I will figure it out later on. But you know, figuring later on because you need to take the decisions before you start entering the data because you need to know where you're going. And that's why outcomes become so much important. You need to see where you are and go from the backwards to how you'll be collecting the data, how you're managing the programs, what metrics you need, and so on and so forth, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great call out. And that's something that came up as we, talked to various folks too. Like they'll admit that often like what they're tracking is driven by funders, but we sense this real desire from folks to think more holistically about their strategy and the long term of where they wanted to go and really set themselves up to be measuring that. And we hope this tool can help them do that.
Meg, do you mind? I see a comment from Caroline about better to stick with NPSP now if you care about data at the household level because it has very few features for managing households. Can I just sort of check in with you on that because I'm struggling with that same issue of just the way you manage households in Nonprofit Cloud. And one investor used to how we do it in NPSP, but I've looked into this. I'm sort of familiar with party groups and account relationships, account contact relationships, all those pieces. and I realize it's off topic, so
Yeah, I will say I'm not as deeply knowledgeable there as I wish I was. I could see honestly having a whole session on that with someone who knows it really well, probably being really useful for folks. It is an area we've heard feedback on that it's a bit too complex. So I know it is something kind of in consideration for roadmap in terms of how we might improve it and make it easier. But I don't know like concrete plans for how it might change.
I mean, I guess part of me is I mean, I think you're probably obligated to give the company line, but I mean, is there a business reason for a nonprofit to stick with, a new nonprofit, new instance of Salesforce to set it up with NPSP versus nonprofit cloud?
Like if my friends started a nonprofit and they were starting with Salesforce, I would go with NPC, like the new one. Because I think just the runway on the innovation you're going to get over time is huge, right? And we move to core so we can help nonprofits take advantage of that innovation and like move more quickly. So I think households, I know there's some pain there. We've been hearing that feedback. But that's kind of the nature of a first release too, is you hear the feedback and then you adjust to try and like make things better.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it is the company line to use NPC as well, but like I do really believe that. If I had I can't think of many use cases where I would say like, no, stick with the old. If I was brand new, like if you're already using NPSP, it's a very different conversation, right? Because you have things customized and built out, and I know that's a much harder decision. But I think if you're brand new, I would strongly lean towards the new.
Right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
A small comment over here, Steven. We might be doing some other sessions in the future because this session was more for, okay, where nonprofit would like to measure the impact and why it is important and how you can do that, right? So the technical questions as to how to enter the data in, that's a totally different ballgame, right? And how you compare to NPSP to NPC is totally different ballgame too. So as Meg rightly pointed out, that, okay, hey, there's more innovation becoming in the new nonprofit cloud. NPSP, in my view, may stay like classic view. Like classic is still there. People say classic is going away, but still there. Like I know some people are still using classic, and you might know some friends too, they're using classic too. And Salesforce said, yeah, we'll get rid of classic like now. So what the total, like the messaging from them is, if a nonprofit is super small, a couple of people kind of thing, you can still stick with NPSP. But if a nonprofit wants to grow, and another thing is also you have to think about the perspective is all donors are becoming smarter now, right? They don't want to see, okay, if I'm donating to a nonprofit A, B, or C, where's my dollars going? I would like to see if you can show your impact. I would like to donate to nonprofit there. So there's a study done by Accenture. They said the donors don't think about which nonprofit. They are more concerned about the cause. If a nonprofit, all nonprofits in the same space, a nonprofit that can show the better impact, they get the dollars, right? So it's again, it depends on the nonprofit. Do you want to pick up NPSP? You want to pick up some other tool than Salesforce? It's all up to them, right? And I believe there's no other software out there which measures the impact to that well, kind of thing, as of yet. It might do sense over here. So.
It's honestly such a crazy problem that they've tackled, and it's just so awesome. And I hope that a lot of implementations and like it really boosts a lot of causes and the missions of different nonprofits, and increasing transparency would be awesome.
Yeah, that's one good point, Krish, we talked about is transparency. I guess the key thing is, which is missing out in, okay, you go back to this, like I come from the financial background. Transparency is the key thing. People don't even show any data. Hey, give me the money. We are kind of using it right way. We're doing this. There's an annual report. But with all the transparency, increase in transparency, it basically builds trust. I mean, it builds trust with the donors. You can actually do much more kind of thing. Shiba, anything else?
So I have two $25 to give away for the Trailhead store. If you would want to be if you want to be considered as a winner, do enter in the spreadsheet link I posted. I have only 3 names, so that will be a very no competition at all.
Yeah.
So let me know if you would want to play.
And while folks are entering, I'll just answer this last question. Are there any plans at all to add new outcome management features to NPSP? So at this time, there's not. I think we're planning for that to be in core and only in core. And is the plan to only continue with support for existing NPSP, so that's the managed package product features, and for new innovation to be in NPC and core? Yeah, that is right. So NPSP, the managed package, like our
I'll just add your
historical
name.
product will be fully supported. Like we still have engineers responding to bugs and investigations and all of that. But you know, the new innovation will be focused on the new products in core. I'm also trying to open up this deck so external people can use it. But if I don't get into the chat, I will send it to Shiba after so that she can distribute it to everyone who's here.
Yeah, I can email everyone who attended today.
Cool. Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to do it tonight because it looks like there's a special thing I have to do to make it externally accessible, but I will get that to you soon.
Yeah, there's a suggestion Janine just gave.
PDF it. Yeah. Yeah, so I'll send it around tomorrow so that I'm not trying to figure that out while I'm still talking to you all. Any
So
other
some people
questions?
have overwritten somebody's name. So please verify that your name is there, and then I don't want anyone not to get a chance to win.
All in the name of transparency. There you go.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for having me. I mean, I just think hearing your questions also kind of validates some of the things we know around where we should think about next and do more research around how to kind of improve our new offering. So really appreciate the engagement and the good questions and the open-mindedness to kind of this big change in the ecosystem. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much, Meg.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. I think it was a very enlightening and helpful session. I think everybody gained something from it.
Now, I guess people start thinking about it, or the outcomes, because people don't know about the outcomes and NPSP don't talk about it, kind of thing. It's only the great people, some great people in the nonprofit are supposed to create a report somehow. So they are the fun guys, so they know about it. So yeah, it was fun to see.
So I'm just sharing my screen. Just see those who want to play. Your names are there. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, the spinner is spinning.
Yeah, spinning. And is everybody's name there, or?
My name is in somebody, Apurva said that.
Oh, okay. I'll add your name, Apurva. And anyone else?
Peter.
Peter. Anyone else?
Pat. Sorry.
Okay. I think it's got updated. Anyone else? Let me know. Going once, going twice, going thrice. Now I'm spinning it. Ooh. The first winner is John. Congratulations.
Are you sure you're gonna give it to John? He never even asked a question over here. Hey, John,
Yeah,
sorry about it. Just kidding, John.
Okay. One more winner. Let's go. Apurva.
But she got a name in.
Okay, perfect. 2 winners. So please contact me. I'll just write my email and I'll send you the $25 gift card for that store. Stop sharing.
Congrats, everyone.
Congrats to the winners. John, you want to ask a question?
No, I'll remember to send you this time.
Okay, I'll just write my email. Please email me to get your gift card. Okay. So thanks so much, everyone, for your participation and everybody pitching in to ask great questions. And have a great night. Thanks very much, Meg. It was a very enlightening session and everybody was very appreciative.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Have a great night. Good night, everyone.
Bye.
And
Bye.
bye.
Good morning, everybody.